What's up, guys? This is Chris from DraftDashboard.com.
Here are my DFS picks for NFL Week 13 Millionaire Maker.
These picks apply for DraftKings and FanDuel. Before I get started, please drop a like on this video and hit that red subscribe button
And hit that bell icon
so you don't miss our new videos.
Okay guys, this is for the Millionaire Maker slate, which is the Sunday main slate at 1 p.m. Oh, and stick around to the very end of this video. After I show you all my picks in the Draft Dashboard tools, I'll show you these players in DraftKings and in FanDuel, the Millionaire Maker slates. There'll be 2 spots open that you have to fill in, but you'll have a great Millionaire Maker core. Okay guys, NFL Week 13, let's take a look at the quarterback position. My Millionaire Maker quarterback for Week 13 is Ryan Tannehill from the Tennessee Titans playing the Cleveland Browns, who have a middle-of-the-pack defense overall, and they're middle-of-the-pack defending opposing quarterbacks. Ryan Tannehill has averaged 20.9 fantasy points per game on the season. He gets an average of 2.7 rush attempts per game, and he scored 19 and 23 fantasy points in the last 2 games. He's going to be about 8% owned, projected at 19.8 fantasy points here in Week 13. He's $6,200 DraftKings salary and $1,600 more on FanDuel. Vegas thinks there's going to be 54 points scored in this game, with the Tennessee Titans favored by 6. So he's got a decent matchup here versus the Cleveland Browns. They've been known to give up big points to the quarterback and wide receiver positions. And Vegas thinks this is going to be a high-scoring game. And it's a pretty close game within a touchdown here. So I think that this could turn into a shootout. So I like Ryan Tannehill here versus the Cleveland Browns. Okay, let's take a look at the running back position. Now this pick is to save salary. Now we're just kind of piggybacking off of a good performance last week, and he's got a fantastic matchup. So my Millionaire Maker running back is David Montgomery from the Chicago Bears playing the Detroit Lions, who have the 3rd worst defense overall, and they give up the absolute most fantasy points to opposing running backs. David Montgomery has averaged 14 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 14.2 rush attempts per game and 4.7 pass targets per game. He scored 28 fantasy points off of 11 rush attempts and 6 pass targets last game. He's on the field for 74% of the snaps. He's going to be about 23% owned, projected at 14.6 fantasy points here in Week 13. Because he's only $5,500 DraftKings salary and $700 more on FanDuel. Vegas thinks there's going to be 44.5 points scored in this game, with the Chicago Bears favored by 3. So we got a close, competitive game, a fantastic matchup, and we're building off of a great performance last week. Super low salary here with a high projection. So I like David Montgomery here versus the Detroit Lions. Real quick guys, I got great news. For a limited time, we're offering a full 30-day trial to Draft Dashboard. You can try all the tools for NFL. NBA is right around the corner. This is a great time to get in and try everything for 1 month. The tools are all about saving research time. You can see the last 3 games, the fantasy points per game, the targets they got per game, so you can see how involved they are in the offense, the rushes they got per game. Seeing all this stuff on one screen helps you save time and make better picks. Oh, and if you're tired of doing research every day, we just added a cheat sheet that shows hand-picked plays for the slate. No confusing stat lines, no headaches, just a simple cheat sheet that shows the absolute best players for your lineups. Okay, let's take a look at the wide receiver position. My Millionaire Maker wide receiver is A.J. Brown from the Tennessee Titans playing the Cleveland Browns, who have a middle-of-the-pack defense overall, and they give up the 9th most fantasy points to opposing wide receivers. A.J. Brown has averaged 18.2 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 7.2 pass targets per game.
He's on the field for 82% of the snaps, and he scored 26 and 16 fantasy points in the last 2 weeks. He's going to be about 7% owned, projected at 17.1 fantasy points here in week 13. He's 7,600 DraftKings salary and 600 more on FanDuel. We know Vegas thinks there's going to be 54 points scored in this game, with the Titans favored by 6. We got a great wide receiver matchup here, a nice stack with our quarterback Ryan Tannehill. So I like A.J. Brown here versus the Cleveland Browns. Okay, moving on to the tight end position. My Millionaire Maker tight end is Mike Gesicki from the Miami Dolphins playing the Cincinnati Bengals, who have the 9th worst defense overall, and they give up the 3rd most fantasy points to opposing tight ends. Mike Gesicki has averaged 8.7 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 4.6 pass targets per game. He got 5 pass targets in each of his last 3 games, scoring 12, 8, and 6 fantasy points. He's going to be about 14% owned, projected at 9 fantasy points here in week 13. He's 4,200 DraftKings salary and 1,500 more on FanDuel. Vegas thinks there's going to be 42 points scored in this game, and they have the Dolphins favored by 11.5. Fantastic matchup here. So I like Mike Gesicki here versus the Cincinnati Bengals.
If you want to try all these daily fantasy tools for yourself, click the link in the description below this video or just go to draftdashboard.com. You can use our DFS lineup optimizer to build quality lineups using our picks and your own custom player pool. Click the link in the description below this video and try all these daily fantasy tools right now. Thanks so much for watching. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit that bell icon so you can get instant updates whenever we post a new video.
You've unlocked the bonus content.
Okay guys, here we are in the DraftKings lineup optimizer. Over on Draft Dashboard, we have our Millionaire Maker core locked in here, and we've generated a lineup. So let's see who we got. We got Ryan Tannehill, David Montgomery, Nick Chubb, Brandon Cooks, Allen Robinson, A.J. Brown, Mike Gesicki, Denzel Mims, and the Patriots defense. I love this lineup. I think Nick Chubb is going to have a great day versus that Tennessee defense. He's been awesome since coming back from injury. And now with Will Fuller out, Brandon Cooks should get a bunch more pass targets. Allen Robinson's been a stud. We got A.J. Brown stacked with Ryan Tannehill, Mike Gesicki, Denzel Mims. He scored 10 fantasy points in the last 3 games. This guy's on the field for over 90% of the snaps, getting a bunch of targets, and he's low salary. And then the Patriots defense. So I think this is a solid Millionaire Maker lineup here. We got some low ownership players mixed with some studs and high ownership players. Nice mix for our lineup. So I'm going to save this lineup so I can optimize it later. Okay, now here we are in the FanDuel lineup optimizer. Over here on Draft Dashboard, we have our Millionaire Maker core locked in here. We've generated a lineup, so let's see who we got. We got Ryan Tannehill, David Montgomery, Josh Jacobs, Robert Woods, A.J. Brown, DJ Chark, Mike Gesicki, Brandon Cooks, and the Raiders defense. So I love this lineup as well. Josh Jacobs versus the Jets. He could have a huge game in a running game script. Robert Woods versus the Arizona Cardinals. He's been awesome, even getting a couple of rush attempts per game, which adds to his fantasy floor. DJ Chark versus a Minnesota defense that's been known to give up points to the wide receiver position. Brandon Cooks without Will Fuller. And the Raiders defense versus the New York Jets. This is a solid Millionaire Maker lineup. So I'm going to save this lineup so I can optimize it later.
Thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please smackety smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Oh, and please comment below with your favorite
player for this NFL slate.
I love to hear what you guys have to think. Thanks again, and good luck.